We are following breaking news here at 4 that just came out within the past half hour.
A bombshell allegation to make against the sitting mayor of the city of Seattle, with 3 men now saying that they were sexually abused by the mayor several years ago. The claims allege the man, now living in Kent, was sexually abused as a child by Murray and forced into prostitution. Murray went into hiding this afternoon. His attorney, Bob Sulkin, however, held a late afternoon press conference.
The allegations are false. He is not engaged in any inappropriate conduct with a minor.
Sulkin already paints the picture that the allegations are politically motivated, coming at a time when Murray is standing for re-election. Sulkin is already trying to raise doubts about the nameless accuser's story.
For 30 years, nothing is said, and all of a sudden an accuser comes who apparently, and has been reported, has a long criminal record and makes these allegations.
One day after accusations surface against Seattle Mayor Ed Murray, the city official within the past hour breaks his silence about sexual assault claims brought against him yesterday.
To be on the receiving end of such untrue allegations is very painful for me.
Just in about the last 10 or 15 minutes, we received a statement, our Alyssa Hahn did, from Lincoln Beauregard, who is representing this alleged victim, who responded to that press conference today. And just quoting now partially of this statement from Lincoln, he says that after the mayor has done so much good for this community and inspired so many people, it must be hard for him to know that his career is over.
If the mayor had announced a resignation, the current council president, Bruce Harrell, would be first in line to serve as acting mayor. However, Murray said in quite clear terms today that he plans to continue serving in his office. He also said he will continue to run for re-election. Currently, he's the only big known name in the race, and he's way ahead in the money raised among the 8 candidates who have filed so far. The mayor has raised more than $300,000 as of the last filing deadline. He's also racked up a number of endorsements from labor groups and current elected officials, including the governor.
King 5 investigator Chris Ingalls has just returned from Portland with an exclusive perspective from a man who knew both Murray and his accuser very well.
In the 1980s, this row house on Gleason Street in Portland was home to Seattle's future mayor. And for 2 years, Ed Murray opened his upper floor apartment to a 16-year-old boy named Jeff Simpson.
My recollection was he was living on the streets, had drug issues, had mental health issues, had issues with authority.
Mark Kramer, a Portland attorney, was Murray's next-door neighbor and a friend.
What is your reaction to allegations that Ed was sexually abusing Jeff? Could it be true?
We were shocked. There was nothing in our relationship with Ed, our relationship with Jeff, our observations of Jeff and Ed that would lead us to believe there was anything but a strong parent-teenager relationship.
Kramer saw Ed Murray as the only father the orphan teen had.
Certainly there was nothing in his relationship with Jeff that would lead us to believe he did anything wrong, did anything but being an upstanding person and taking in a child who was in need.
This is Jeff Simpson today.
Why would Mark Kramer be so adamant that he doesn't believe anything happened?
Right. Well, and because, I mean, do any people that molest other people or other children, I mean, do they make it a habit to let other people know? No, they don't. They do any and everything they can to hide it.
A decade ago, Simpson made a legal claim, although a lawsuit was never filed, that Murray paid him cash for sex in the Gleason Street apartment.
The sex part of our relationship turned into the money because that was the only way that I could get an allowance.
The first hint of trouble came in 1984. This Portland police record shows Simpson accused Murray of sodomy, a charge that prosecutors ultimately rejected. Authorities interviewed neighbor Mark Kramer.
We told them what we're telling you now, that this was a strong parent-teenager relationship, and we saw nothing unusual, unseemly, untoward in their relationship.
Less than 2 weeks after allegations that he sexually abused a teenager, Seattle Mayor Ed Murray tells us he will fight.
Susanna, why did he want to sit down and talk to you about this?
Amanda and David, he said he just wants the citizens of Seattle to hear his side of the story and to give him a chance. He wants people to know he's prepared to fight these allegations as well to the bitter end.
Why are you talking to us today?
Well, I think the people of Seattle deserve to understand who their mayor is. and who their mayor is not. And that's the reason I'm talking.
And what the mayor says he is not is a child abuser.
Are you a child molester?
I'm not.
Have you ever had sexual relations as an adult with someone under the age of 18?
I have not ever had sexual relationships with anybody under the age of 18.
The mayor says he does not know who DH is and barely knows a third man bringing allegations. His most outspoken accuser is Jeff Simpson, and for the first time, Murray explains his side of that story. While Murray was attending the University of Portland in the early 1980s, he helped put himself through school by working as a child care worker at the Perry Center, an orphanage at the time for troubled kids.
Different staff were assigned to different kids, and I was assigned to Jeff. Jeff, at that time, was a really troubled young kid. If I remember reading his records correctly, he had been sexually abused. He'd been in numerous foster homes.
Eventually, Murray took Simpson into his Portland home to live full-time. He says it was a judge who asked him to become an official foster parent, specifically for this case.
And finally, the court asked that he be placed with me. I was very young. It was a mistake, but I did it because I saw a lot of potential in Jeff. He's a really charming, good guy with some significant problems.
Simpson and Murray both agree that the young boy often ran away and called Ed Murray for help. Murray said that led to a falling out.
Every time he ran away, I called the police. Those would have been opportunities for him to report abuse. So I needed to return him to the foster care system. It's my understanding he got very angry because I had sent him back to the system.
Murray says it's most likely another system at the root of the allegations, the far-right, anti-gay movement. He says when he's been working issues such as gay marriage, LGBT civil rights, and now, as he's running for re-election, that's when the accusations have come to light.
So it sounds like you're saying it's a bit of a conspiracy, people working together.
Well, I don't know that. It doesn't happen in those other years. Is it a conspiracy? I have no idea. Others are going to have to investigate that and figure it out.
So I think this is only being peddled by those truly hateful on the far, 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 far right.
And you think that's what the undercurrent here is, do you think?
Absolutely.
So I asked the mayor why people should believe him, given that it's not one accuser, but three. He said he understands that people would be concerned, but that the allegations are bogus and that he'll have more to say once he finds out the identity of DH.
Devon Heckard is going public with his story now. It happened late last night in a court filing.
Today, his attorney explains why and the motivation behind it.
Right now, our only glimpse of Devon Heckard is a picture, a man whose name is listed in this late-night filing, alleging Mayor Ed Murray molested him as a boy in exchange for money. But today, the Kent man tells King 5 he was inspired to do it after two other men went public with their names and claims. Heckard telling King 5 the entire ordeal has been traumatic and that, in his words, the mayor's lying about it hurts even more.
Devon actually was getting angry at watching the mayor parade himself around the city saying, I don't know who this accuser is.
Attorney Lincoln Beauregard is representing Heckard.
Devon Heckard says he wants the public to know the truth about the man that's running the city.
Beauregard says he believes Heckard can prove Murray at one point had a mole or bump on his private parts, an issue which has now become central to the case. Murray says his doctor found no mole or bump during a recent exam.
We are going to prove that the mayor had a mole or a bump, whatever, 30 years ago.
Beauregard also says despite his law office's past giving to anti-LGBT campaigns, his client is not part of any grand conspiracy to sink the openly gay mayor. Is this politically motivated in some way to try and make sure that Mayor Murray doesn't run for re-election?
The answer is yes, it's very politically motivated, but it has absolutely nothing to do with gay rights issues or Mr. Connolly's politics. The only thing that it has to do with is that my client was a victim of Ed Murray, and he said that he wants to file a lawsuit. And he said that one of his goals is to make sure that the public knows the truth and there's accountability.
Murray's attorney says a doctor's examination this morning disproves the plaintiff's claims. We have live team coverage. King 5's Alyssa Hahn is there with reaction from the victim's lawyer.
But let's begin tonight with political reporter Natalie Brand. She was at the news conference held by the mayor's lawyer.
And the mayor's attorney says this case should be dropped based on this game-changing new information from a new doctor's exam today that the attorney says refutes information about the mayor's anatomy detailed in the alleged victim's complaint. Here is the mayor's attorney, Bob Sulkin.
It was found to be no mole or bump in his private anatomy as alleged by the accuser.
Ed Murray's attorney also provided a partial medical report which mentioned that there is no evidence of removal of the mole. Attorney Sulkin also took a couple of questions from reporters, was even asked would the mayor agree to another exam by another doctor, and he said, I'm not against a fair analysis by a doctor if a judge ordered it.
Murray today, in an unusual press conference, answered Heckard's claims directly for the first time and questions from reporters.
I can state categorically that I have never had a sexual relationship with the individual whose name was revealed today, Devon Heckard, or of any kind of relationship at any time with him. I have never paid for sex. I have never had sex with a minor. Heckard's claims about my anatomy were proved medically false last week. The accusations are untrue.
You've said that the victims, the alleged victims, are lying. What motivation do you believe they have?
I'm not going to create a conspiracy here, but every time I have had to bring a significant bill forward, the domestic partnership bill in 2008 that the Seattle Times was researching at the time, the marriage equality bill in 2012, and just having sued the President of the United States and running for re-election, this is when these things come up. They didn't come up the other 30 years. They come up at a time, it seems, where certain things happen that are highly partisan and highly political.
So are you categorically saying, Mayor, that the three men who have stepped forward have made up the allegations?
The allegations are untrue.
To talk to Mayor Murray's fourth accuser, we went to the RJC. Behind bars, our cameras and recording devices are not allowed. 44-year-old Maurice LaVon Jones told us he's homeless and now in a drug diversion court program hoping to get clean. Crack cocaine is his drug of choice. He started using it when he was 12 or 13, in and out of foster care, using it all the way up to now, he said. Jones said his best friend, Devon Heckard, who is now suing the mayor for child sex abuse, introduced him to the mayor when they were teen prostitutes. We walked up to his house, which was behind the Rite Aid. Murray offered us drugs, something to party with, which he declined. Jones said it was obvious that Murray and Heckard had an arrangement. They were familiar and comfortable with each other. In Murray's living room, we did what we did, and he gave me some money, $30 or $40, which was Jones' standard price. Later on, he claimed Murray picked him up off the streets in his car for another encounter near Volunteer Park. Jones could not remember any distinctive characteristics regarding Murray's genitalia, as his other alleged victims have claimed. But he said Ed Murray had a face you would never forget. Tuesday night, Jones signed a handwritten declaration and posed for this photo with one of Heckard's attorneys, Lincoln Beauregard, which he filed as a court record. Today, Judge Veronica Alicia Galvan called Beauregard's pattern of filings irrelevant and non-responsive, leveling a $5,000 fine for how he's handled the case against the mayor.
Apparent intent of generating publicity that has the potential of prejudicing the administration of justice.
Beauregard said he's determined to move forward.
Judges make rulings, and one of my things is you believe in respecting them and then appealing them in the right and proper way.
The judge's ruling had nothing to do with the veracity of Jones's story. Why is he stepping forward now? He said, I don't want to slander the man, but the people don't want to have a pedophile as a mayor.
We have a party divided on this issue.
Bailey Stober, chair of the King County Democrats, spoke for the first time to King 5 on the mayoral race making headlines. Mayor Ed Murray running for re-election while facing a civil suit alleging sexual abuse in the 1980s, allegations he categorically denies.
I think this needs to, again, play out in a court of law, but I also think that this is a big distraction, and the leaders of Seattle need to weigh whether a campaign is appropriate at this point and whether this distraction is going to stop them from governing. And if the answer is yes, it stops them from governing, then maybe they need a different approach.
King 5 political reporter Natalie Brand broke this story this evening. Joins us live now from the newsroom with the latest. Natalie?
And Greg, two sources close to the mayor's inner circle tell me that he's very likely to announce this week that he is planning to end his campaign for re-election. They say heading into the weekend, he's been seriously reconsidering his re-election bid.
Seattle Mayor Ed Murray says he will not run for re-election.
The scandal surrounding them and me is hurting this city.
And that's why.
So I'm announcing that I am withdrawing as a candidate for mayor.
It's a stunning decision, considering Murray has considered the office his dream job. He entertained running as a write-in in 2009.
The mayor of Seattle is the second most important administrative job in this state after the governor, I think. And yes, I'm very interested.
He ran in 2013, boosted by success in the state Senate and by pushing through same-sex marriage legislation.
Marriage is how society says you are a family.
I'm proud of the work that he's done, and I'm proud to have been able to stand by him.
But his friends even acknowledged his response to the allegations, widely criticized, was fatal.
I think his decision was very selfless.
And Mark, Amanda, these bombshell developments happened very quickly, very unexpectedly today. The first indicator we got was when the mayor's office canceled the arena news conference he was supposed to have today around the exact same time that these new allegations broke. And then within hours, sources told me that the mayor was meeting with staff members and his inner circle, discussing the possibility of resigning and a transition of power. That news confirmed just after 1 p.m. today. The mayor did not hold a news conference, but rather sent out a statement announcing he will be resigning effective 5 p.m. tomorrow. In part of his statement, he said, quote, "While the allegations against me are not true, it is important that my personal issues do not affect the ability of our city government to conduct the public's business." So as for what happens next, there is a very clear process laid out by the city charter, and I will go more into the details of that and what's expected in just a minute. But first, I want to toss things over to my colleague Alyssa Hahn with more on the new developments that triggered this new bombshell news. Alyssa?
Natalie, the new accuser decided he was ready to go public a couple of weeks ago. That's when the man, Mayor Murray's cousin, contacted the attorney who filed suit against the mayor earlier this year. The cousin, Joseph Dyer, had just learned about the allegations against Mayor Ed Murray, and he was angry that the mayor was denying them. King 5 obtained the signed declaration from the mayor's cousin, 54-year-old Joseph Dyer, the man who would effectively end Murray's career as mayor. In the declaration, Dyer said Murray lived with them in Medford, New York for about a year in the mid-70s, when Murray was in his 20s and Dyer was a young teen. During that time, Murray regularly molested me in ways that can be best described as repeated and prolonged child molestation in the first degree or worse, Dyer said. Dyer accuses Murray of using his position of power to attack the men accusing him of abuse.
I know.
Like Devon Heckard, who filed a lawsuit against the mayor earlier this year. News reports show Murray standing at the publicly owned mayoral podium with his husband, a Seattle employee, by his side on the taxpayer time, declaring vindication in relation to Mr. Heckard's private lawsuit claims and continuing to slander the lawyers and other victims, said Dyer. We reached out to Murray about his cousin's allegations, and the mayor's staff promptly canceled his appearance at an 11 a.m. news conference about renovating the Key Arena. The announcement of Murray's resignation came 2 hours later, the mayor still maintaining his innocence. As for other leaders who stood by the mayor, Dyer called them out.
I hope that we can avoid grandstanding on this.
Councilmember Sally Bagshaw said those words to the rest of the council in July. Speaking out confidently in favor of removing Murray from office is not grandstanding, Dyer said. We spoke with Mary Ellen Tilley over the phone this morning. As you hear in her voice, she is a New Yorker who doesn't mince words, and she still fights off the tears talking about what happened to her son.
Hello.
Mary Ellen?
Yeah.
Mary Ellen Tilley talked to us about her family's history with Mayor Ed Murray.
His mother and my mother were sisters.
She said Murray came to live with them in the mid-70s after his mom had passed away. He shared a room with her son, Joseph Dyer.
I think Edward was in his 20s, and my son was around 12, 13, something like that.
Dyer, who is now 54, has signed a declaration saying Murray regularly molested me for the year he lived with them. So Tilley said her son didn't tell her about the abuse until after Murray left their home.
Do you remember how you felt as his mom learning that Ed had done these things?
I wanted to go kill him. That he had done this damage to my son. I didn't know what to do. And I have that guilt on me, even to this day, that I didn't do enough for my son.
So Tilley said while Murray was living with them, he worked for Little Flower Children's Services in New York, where he was accused of abuse.
They never said sexual abuse. They said abuse. And we thought, we thought he was like hitting the kid.
Today, a spokesperson for Little Flower confirmed and Edward Murray worked for them during that time, but had no record why he left. Murray has issued a statement denying the allegations and told the Seattle Times, "There's been numerous fights between our two families for many years and much ugliness. I guess they see me down and out and they want to finish me off."
I'd like him to die penniless and have nothing because of all the children he's hurt. We just want him to pay for what he's done to other people.
Devon Heckard gave his first TV interview to King 5's Alyssa Hahn today, and he's sharing how he feels about the mayor resigning. Alyssa.
Heckard talked about the relief that he felt last week, and it was not necessarily because he wanted the mayor out of office. Heckard believes that Murray stepped down because more people were believing the accusations against him. He said it was a weight lifted off his shoulders.
Well, I was really, really emotional. I mean, I cried all day. Because I was now people really see that my story that I told was the truth, and it's brought a lot of relief and some healing too.
5 days after Ed Murray's fifth accuser emerged, Devon Heckard feels like the tide of public opinion has finally changed. Last week, Murray's own cousin stepped forward accusing him of molestation.
Are you surprised it took 5 people to change things, to change public opinion, to convince him to resign?
That's no, I'm not surprised. I guess people felt that it was somebody just trying to bring him down politically or whatever the case may be, which the political part, I don't care nothing about that. That's not important to me, none of that.
Heckard claims he met the former mayor 3 decades ago. Murray would have been in his early 30s. Heckard, a drug-addicted 15-year-old.
He looked at me a couple of times and approached me, and he invited me to his home. And I'm sure he knew I was on drugs, and he knew that I was desperate and vulnerable. And he took me to his house, and he offered me money for sex. And that went on for at least 4 years.
How much would he pay you?
A disgraceful $15, no more than $20. Well, I was disgusted with myself. I was disgraced. And especially how he treated me after it was done. I would have to take a shower. He would rush me and kick me up out of his house. Once he got what he wanted, that's all that would matter to him.
Was there anything else that just kind of stuck with you?
Just the way he treated me, and just like I was a piece of dirt, or like I was a piece of trash, a piece of meat. You know, it's just, he was disgusting. Just disgusting, and you could see it in his eyes. I used to look in his eyes and I could see it and I could just see evil. But I was so trapped in that world to where I just let it go on.
While he told a few close friends and family, Heckard kept that history a secret until he got clean and sober and his father passed away. He filed his lawsuit accusing Murray of child sex abuse in April and then withdrew it, believing the mayor was using his position to bolster his case and attack his accusers.
Are you going to refile your lawsuit?
Yes.
You are. Tell me why it's important to you. Because he's resigned, he stepped down, He's been publicly shamed. Why is the lawsuit still important?
He still needs to be held accountable. And the other people, they want him to be held accountable also. It's about my healing and about helping other people. I don't really care. If I win, I win. You know, that's all in God's hands. I mean, that's not up to me.
Have you thought about seeing Ed face to face?
I would love to. I would love to.
Why?
I would say to him, you actually are going to sit here and say you don't know who I am and that you've never had a sexual encounter with me. And I would like to see the expression on his face.